Good morning traders, welcome to another RMD weekly market overview. A big shout out to our subscriber base who have now reached 250 and is still quickly growing. And as all of you may have noticed, many of our target levels have now proven to be remarkably accurate, and this is possible due to an understanding of technical analysis principles, and these are the same principles that you can also learn through our masterclass training series, which of course is available completely free of charge to all our RMD clients. We do this because we believe that for us to be successful, you need to be successful. I'm going to let the disclaimer roll and I'll see you in the charts. We start this week again with the US dollar to South African rand. And just before we start, I just want to point out that the South African Reserve Bank is expected to cut the repo rate again this week for the 5th time this year. The most likely consensus at this stage is that it will be cut by 25 basis points, although there is a minority view that it could be cut by as much as 50 basis points, and of course there's also a chance that the repo rate remains unchanged. Moving on to the chart, our target of 16.55 Rand was briefly hit last week, and we saw some strong support at that level, with price quickly finding support and moving back up. And then at this stage, we can now see that this lower part of the channel is now also acting as a dynamic support area, and should price manage to break below, and I'm just going to enable or project the pivot levels quickly. If price manages to break back below that 16.55 Rand level, which is currently our support, we could find support further down at 16.50 Rand, and that is, as we can see, our new dynamic support level. If, of course, price managed to move back above this weekly pivot level, we could see price move to the first area of overhead resistance, which would be at 16.85 Rand, which is our overhead resistance channel, and also where our confluence with the 4-hour 200 and 100 MAs is going to be met. And then, of course, should price manage to break above this channel, we can expect price to move higher, perhaps even as high as 17.50 Rand, although I do not see that happening as soon as this week, but definitely 17.10 Rand would be the area to watch out for resistance should this channel at 16.85 Rand manage to break. Looking now at our EURUSD, and before we get into the charts, I just want to move on to the economic calendar for the week, and just looking at events that might have an impact on the EURUSD. We can see that we have unemployment claims on Thursday at 2:30. There's also this leading index figure at 4, and then on Friday we have some events impacting the euro, French flash services PMI, also the German flash manufacturing PMIs and service PMIs. So yeah, that will all be events impacting the euro and USD pairs this week. And just looking at the chart quickly, our target, as was set last week at 1.140, was hit, with that acting then as resistance. Price coming back lower down to retest the 20 SMA, and for this week we can see that the next area of resistance, since the price is currently bullish, would be in this 1.55 area, and that being the weekly R2 pivot level. And of course, before we look at support, I just want to point out as well that our weekly pivot level is right below us at 1.139, so that would be the immediate area that we can expect price to move to. But if that area does not hold, it's likely that we'll see price moving down to 1.130, and that is where our 4-hour 200 as well as our 4-hour 100 SMAs will converge on the previous week's pivot level. So that would also be an area to look out for, and of course very strong support still at this 1.125 area, as that will be our monthly pivot level as well as our weekly S2 pivot area. So that would be a very strong area of support should price start to break down more. Looking now at a GBPUSD, we saw price last week break below the weekly pivot level and then quickly retest that 1.249 level at the monthly pivot, and also on the 100 SMA, this blue line, and also the weekly S1 pivot level from last week. So price retested that level and then moved back higher. And of course, for this week, we can now expect our 1.250 level to act as our support. This would be our 4-hour confluence area of both the 200 as well as the 100 SMA areas, as well as this new neckline area of support has been forming here. We can see that would be indicated by this turquoise line. And of course, should price manage to break above this level and also of course above our weekly pivot level at 1.257, I think we can expect price to firstly move higher to this 1.266 level, and that being weekly R1 level, and then of course the monthly pivot level at monthly R1 pivot level of 1.272 being the higher target for next week. And of course the support remains at the monthly pivot level at 1.250. Looking now to Australian dollar USD, and just note that we have on Tuesday some economic events impacting the Australian dollar. So there will be some monetary policy meetings, and of course we have on Wednesday the retail sales figures, so just keep an eye out for that as well. And then looking at the chart, we can see that price briefly tested our overhead resistance level and target that we set at 0.703, and for this week we can expect that any bullish price action above our weekly pivot at 0.698 can give us targets at 0.704 or even as high as 0.709, which would be our monthly R1 pivot level and also our weekly R2 pivot level. Of course, any bearish price action below the pivot level will see price move back down and perhaps even test this lower dynamic support, this channel that we saw price respect so far, and that will also be a confluence area of the 100 as well as the 200 SMAs on the 400 time frame, and then of course also our weekly S1 pivot level at 0.693. So keep an eye out for that. And of course there's this monthly pivot level at 0.687, which would act as a strong support should price manage to break below this channel. Moving on to the S&P 500. Last week saw two of our targets being hit, both our support level that we set at 3,156, that was the weekly S1 pivot level, and then price went back up and tested the 3,240 level that we set as our resistance level perfectly. And currently we are just consolidating, and the price do remain bullish, as we can see that both our 100 and 200 SMAs are pointing upwards, with price still trading well above them. They will also both act as dynamic support currently at 3,155. So both these lines will probably meet up with this weekly S1 pivot level. So that would be the area of support. And then any break above resistance at this monthly R1 pivot level at 3,240. That would be the high as well of last week. So any break above that level will see us target 3,310 perhaps. That would be very close and perfectly actually on our weekly R2 pivot level. So that would be the upside target for the week to come. And I believe if we do draw a channel from the previous highs, we can see that that will perhaps also meet up around about this area. Looking now at UK or Brent crude oil, price still consolidating, and with the length of this consolidation we can actually expect that any break at this stage would be rather powerful, meaning that the level to keep an eye out for will still be this $43.50 level. That's our current area of overhead resistance, and then we have that gap still sitting at $45, and in fact very close to our monthly R1 pivot level and also our weekly S2 pivot level at $44.75. So should we see a close above the $33.50 level, we can probably expect price to then move to that 45 level. However, if we manage to see price break below our weekly pivot level, and I think also importantly our 400 100 SMA, if price were to close below that, it's possible that we can see price move to support at $42.50. That would be around this area over here, because like I mentioned, sorry, that would be our 100 SMA. So if price were to break below that, we then have our $42 area to contend with, which would be an area of confluence with the 4-hour 200 SMA. And then of course, should price even move below that, we still have a monthly pivot level acting as very strong support at the $41 area. And then just moving to our economic calendar again, I just want to note that there is crude oil inventories at 4:50 on Wednesday. Looking now at gold, we are on the daily time frame, and we can see there's a rather interesting consolidation currently happening at the 1,800 level, with price managing to respect that level at this stage. I do want to point out there is some bullish divergence as well with our what's this? I believe this is our RSI showing some lower lows and price making higher lows, of course, meaning there is some bullish divergence. And just quickly moving to the 4-hour time frame and also looking at our pivots for the week, we can see that any close above 1,820 being our weekly R1 pivot level could potentially see price move higher towards firstly the monthly R1 pivot level at 1,822, and then should price manage to break above that, I think our weekly R3 pivot level is sitting at 1,840. I'll quickly enable that to show you weekly R3 pivot level. So you'll see that level is sitting at 1,840. So that could be a potential bullish target for gold. And of course, just looking at areas of support is firstly at 1,800 level, and should price manage to break below the 1,800 level, we can expect our 400 to 4-hour 200 SMA at about the 1,760 level to act as a strong support. Concluding this week's market overview, we are looking at Bitcoin. Last week, for those who have missed it, we did a comprehensive overview of Bitcoin, looking from a much higher time frame and looking at what price is currently doing and where it comes from and what the possible and likely scenarios could be from here on out. But for now, I just want to focus on this triangle pattern that we are seeing here. It's considered a flat bottom triangle. As you can see, we're making lower highs with all of the support candles managing to bounce off this flat area over here, which is our 9,100 level that we've also discussed quite a lot the last couple of weeks. So a lot of people expecting a break below this level, as that's the way these triangles usually play out. However, I don't think it's best to speculate, and I do want to point out that the daily trend remains bullish with the 100 SMA and the 200 SMA both pointing upwards, and price also trending above them. So what I'll say is I've also briefly highlighted these overhead resistance areas as well as support areas in orange and green. So as we can see, price currently respecting this 9,095 level, and then of course struggling to break above this 9,300 level. So those are the levels that we need to watch. Of course, if we do manage to see a break above 9,300, that will also break break this diagonal resistance area, and could see price move towards the monthly pivot level at 9,460. So that would be around about this area, which is also very close to the previous highs that we saw. And then of course, should price then move above that, we can expect that area around 9,800 plus to be in play, as that would be the next area of overhead resistance. Should price, however, manage to break back into this area of support, we have our 100 daily SMA acting as a very important support level, and that level is the level that should hold in order for Bitcoin to remain bullish. And should we break below that level, of course, I expect we will see price very quickly move to this 8,500 level, as that's our daily 200 SMA, as well as we will meet our monthly S1 pivot level at 8,495 to 8,600. So all depending on at what point the price should break below our 100 daily SMA. So that concludes Bitcoin for this week. I really hope you enjoyed this week's video, and please remember to subscribe, and while you're at it, also click the notification button to be reminded as soon as we make a new video live. This is John Jacobs for RMDTRADER, and until next time, trade smart and trade successful.